From within the iridescent glow of the cold glass pane, you watch the slow pulsating movements of jellyfish swim above your head, their light captivating everyone's attention. You sat in the viewing theatre, where the mirrored walls reflected the scene, making the tank seem larger than it was. It was almost as if you were engulfed and surrounded by the depths of the sea, admiring the jellyfish that languidly swam around. As children walked by, you watched them pointing at all manner of things that caught their eye. You spotted families enjoying their company and entertaining themselves with laughter. The occasional group of friends wandered through, adding to the cacophony of chatter, and of course, the few couples that caught your eye stood by the glass of the aquarium, admiring the view. You've been waiting for a while now at this exhibit, taking this moment to relax and reflect on a lot of things that happened in the past month. Aside from the strange happenings within hero society as a whole, your work was beginning to pay off, if only a little. Fourth Kind had always been tough on you ever since you interned at his agency back in the day, but now being employed by him over the years, you didn't expect to fall in line with government work. Still, you found yourself being out on the field more so than behind a desk, much to your surprise and your satisfaction. A chill crept up your arms that soon reached in between your shoulders before it ran down the sides of your back. It was rather sudden. Was it really that cold? You thought about it for a while before you grimaced, thinking that you should have brought a light jacket. Of course it would be cold. You were in an aquarium. You raised your arms to hug your sides, hoping that that alone would keep the cold at bay and ensnare your body heat. But you felt the start of your joints stiffen. Great. Your grimace slightly intensified, thankful that it was a weekend that this date was planned. From out of nowhere, you spotted a pair of legs on each side before a large pair of arms wrapped around you, pulling you close. His body heat saved the moment, while you instinctively relaxed into his large, warm chest that seemed to fit against your back, feeling the weight of his head on your shoulder.
"Miss me?"
whispered a deep voice next to your ear.
A little,"
you replied softly, leaning your head against Kirishima's, enjoying the company now that your joints had loosened. You found it ironic how his body would run hot on any normal day. It was absolutely perfect, except when the both of you trained together on your days off, a custom the both of you shared after both Fat Gum and Fourth Kind underwent a joint agency operation in downtown Musatafu a few years ago. It wasn't obvious that you were slightly starstruck when you met Kirishima for the first time, only ever hearing anecdotes of his short stint with Fourth Kind and the few news reports and articles of his growing heroism. His interactions with both veteran pro-heroes, Fat Gum and Fourth Kind, was endearing, and you couldn't help to glance at him every once in a while during the operation. The least you could say when you recalled the sting operation was that it went off without a hitch. However, the both of you ended up in a compromising situation. You cleared your throat, taking you out of your thoughts, before you turned to Kirishima, shifting your body within his, and turning to him with a smile.
"Did you enjoy the whale shark exhibit?"
you asked. You were met with a joyful, toothy grin, his face bright and his eyes smiling.
"Yeah, I couldn't believe that they could hold something that large in here,"
he commented.
"It's so cool."
You chuckled at his response. He had been nothing but a ball of energy ever since you began to hang out with one another, Granted, it had mostly been training sessions at first, where Kirishima had complimented on your quirk utilization, but also that the both of you, after a few months, found that your quirks contrast each other, making for some more interesting ways to counter each other.
Hey, do you reckon we could arrange to swim with him one day?
Asked Kirishima out of the blue, standing up and helping you to your feet. You stared at him, dumbfounded at first, a moment of silence passing through between the both of you before you questioned.
Him?
Yeah, I spoke to some of the workers and keepers here, and they told me all about him. I got a little excited to learn more.
I always thought you'd be a fish out of water. In water?
It was Kirishima's turn to stare at you blankly, a little confused by your statement. Or your question. You both held each other's attention for some time, while you made your way from the jellyfish exhibit, your nervousness creeping in the back of your mind after realizing what you were trying to say.
Oh, I mean, what I meant to say was...
You started, trying to collect your thoughts.
Because of your quirk, and, you know, your quirk, and water, and... I mean... Forget it.
The darkness from the jellyfish exhibit dispersed before the bright lights of the shark tunnels appeared, revealing your flustered and spluttering expression. Despite the nonplussed look on Kirishima's face, a large grin grew before he stifled a chortle from his throat, covering his mouth with his large hand.
You're so funny sometimes,
he commented, while he wiped away a small tear from his eye, most likely from him suppressing his laughter.
Get it, but no, they know how to swim, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I figured. Sorry, it was a lame joke.
You admitted. Suddenly you felt a large hand atop your head, scruffing your hair affectionately, while you slightly recoiled, but welcomed the touch. You looked up towards Kirishima, his grin still ever present while he chuckled under his breath. Despite your embarrassment, you couldn't help but smile up at him and his infectious positivity at times. You joined in the laughter with him, catching a few glances from some of the passers-by before the both of you continued through the tunnel, admiring the number of sharks swimming around. These dates were more like adventure days, ranging from camping, mountain climbing, and the occasional trip away from the city. If it wasn't training, it was always an adventure. You learned that Kirishima was a bit of an adrenaline junkie at times. I found it surprising that he chose the aquarium this time around. Until he mentioned swimming with sharks. A whale shark.
You know, maybe if we asked nicely, we could come back another day to swim with him.
You commented after reaching the other end of the tunnel, trying to continue the conversation from earlier.
Oh, I already arranged that,
he replied with a smirk.
They'll let us stay after hours to try it out.
What?
You stared at Kirishima, confused.
Didn't you just say one day? As in, not today?
All you were met with was a large goofy grin from him while he rubbed the back of his neck. So his question earlier was more of a checking in with you rather than a maybe we should. All you could do was sign defeat. You wouldn't expect anything less from him.
So,
you started.
What do we do until then?
Don't know. Maybe after we go through the whole aquarium, we could go back and hang with him outside of the viewing tank,
suggested Kirishima, taking you by the hand towards the Arctic section of the premises, walking past the glass pane, revealing the penguins that dove and swam by. The both of you gazed at the birds that bobbed along the water's surface, making it just in time for feeding. While you watched one of the keepers hand feed the penguins as they surrounded them in anticipation, you turned to Kirishima, seeing his eyes brighten at the sight. If you didn't know any better, he looked as if he were more excited for what's to come, like a little kid ready to go to an amusement park, or someone anticipating a meal, or just a puppy.
Does he have a name?
You asked out of the blue.
Huh?
The whale shark.
You reiterated.
Does he have a name?
Oh.
Kirishima rubbed the back of his neck again, slightly flustered.
They actually asked me to give him one, but I don't know. I didn't expect that. I'm not really good with making names.
What do you mean?
You continued as you faced him, holding both his large calloused hands in yours.
You named yourself Red Riot, right?
Well, yeah.
So you're good at names, even if it was highly inspired.
You smiled before an epiphany hit you, looking up at him with an excitement that immediately filled you to the brim.
How about Aru?
Aru?
Yeah, after Red Riot.
A slight of pink flushed across his face. You could see an uncertainty painted on it while he contemplated the thought, wondering and mulling over whether it sounded like a good idea. Over the course of your relationship, despite his bright outlook, you did notice something about Kirishima that you didn't expect. A sense of doubt every now and then. You would have never figured that the most chivalrous and passionate pro-hero to walk the streets of Musutafu would hold any self-doubt. But after learning about a few things about him, your starstruck vision of him shattered. But for the better. You learnt that he was just as human as anybody else.
I see it like this.
You explained, bringing your hand to his chest.
You have the heart of a whale and the spirit of a shark. I think naming him something that describes you would be fitting.
You felt the rise and fall on his chest before you felt his hand engulfed yours, holding it close to him. You watched as his head lowered towards yours, leaning his forehead onto you with a smile on his face. He chuckled at your reasoning, his deep red eyes peering into yours with admiration.
I can't wait.
He spoke softly.
This is going to be a great night with you and Aru.
I'm glad you think so.
You spoke, nuzzling your forehead into his.
I think it'll be fun with the both of you.
Suddenly, a bright grin spread across Kirishima's face before he immediately swept you off your feet, twirling you around and laughing deeply, his voice full of love and joy. Your laughter blended with his. The melody of giggles that escaped from the both of you echoed throughout the exhibit. You didn't care much for the eyes that stared at the spectacle, focusing more on each other before he lowered you down, holding you close. The warmth from his body eased the tension in yours, feeling it spread across you while his arms encircled your form. You melted into him, while his hand laid on your head, playing with your hair before he uttered.
Thanks, Jem.